Welcome back to this 4-part tutorial from iOSConsultancy.co.uk. In this tutorial we're showing you how to build a tasks application on the iPhone from scratch. In the first part of the tutorial we set up our tab bar. Then we set up 2 navigation controllers, each containing a table view. We then began implementing our tasks brain. In part 2 we extended our table views to use custom classes and built up our cells in our interface. In this part we're going to finish the implementation of the entire application. That's going to involve adding the Add Task screen, finishing our All Tasks screen, and then bug testing. In the final part of the tutorial, the next video, we're going to look at persisting the data between application launches. So, let's dive in. Open the project we've been working on up till now. The first thing we're going to finish is our tasks brain. We're going to implement fully the methods we haven't yet finished. These are all activity and all tasks with priority. All activity is easy. All we need to do here is return our activity internal data array, but without the user being able to change it. So we would do this by saying self.activity copy, and we return that. That's all there is to that method. All tasks with priority needs to filter our internal tasks storage by a given priority. We do that using something called NS_predicate. We create a new filter and tell it to create one with a format of task priority is equal to a number we pass in, being a priority. That's just like SQL syntax. We say that for each object in the array there must be a property task priority equal to %i. %i is replaced with whatever value we pass in the argument a priority. Then we just tell the method to return self.tasks a filtered array using the predicate filter. That's all there is to it. We've now fully implemented our tasks brain, and to our best of our knowledge it works fine. Let's now implement a bit further our tasks table view controller. When the view is going to appear, we need to tell it to reload data. That means when we finish adding a task, it will reload and show the new one. If we come back to the tab at a later date, it will reload and show the latest information. So it would be best to put this code in view will appear. How do we tell our code to get the latest information from the tasks brain and disregard any information we've cached? We do this by setting our 3 cached arrays to nil. The reason this works is it sets each instance variable to nil, and then when it's next accessed through our table view data source methods, it will realise it's empty and will go and fetch the latest information from our brain. One other thing to put in view will appear is self.tableview reload data. That tells the table view to get all new information. If we run now, there will be no information on the page. Because we don't have an interface to add a task yet, why don't we go ahead and create a task in code. It's equal to ICTask alloc init. Task.task priority equals ICTask priority low. Task.task title buy bread, for example. Then we say IC tasks brain main brain add task task. Doing that should mean when we load our view there's one task in the table view. Let's check to make sure that works. We go to tasks. Oh, there's nothing there. So there must be a problem in our code somewhere. There's no obvious error here, so let's use Xcode's debugging tools to add some breakpoints to check this. Add a breakpoint on the getter for each of your cached arrays. Your view will appear. Add number of rows in section. Also, in tasks brain, add a breakpoint on all tasks with priority and also our main brain. Rerun the application now. Main brain is called. We go inside. If main brain object has something in it already, there's the problem. We actually want to check if main brain is empty, and if it is, we need to set it up the first time. So our problem, or one of our problems here, is we're missing an exclamation mark to invert the Boolean value. Let's disable breakpoints and check our application again. We go to tasks. There's our task. Let's check activity. Added task by bread is there. So, our program is now working as much as we have implemented so far. Let's check our IC activity table view controller is fully implemented. In view will appear, we're going to add the same code. Self.activity equals nil. And then self.tableview reload data. That ensures we get the latest information from our brain. That's it for the files we've already created. Let's head back to our storyboard and design our add task interface. Suggest you zoom out slightly so we have a little more space. Drag on a navigation controller and position it just above your all tasks. Scroll down and find a bar button item and add this to your all tasks. Set the identifier to add. Then control drag from add to the navigation controller and select modal. This is telling our storyboard when you click that add button to present a modal view controller with this navigation controller inside. I'm setting the style to black opaque and deleting the initial root view controller. Drag a table view controller on, roughly in line with your navigation controller, and control drag and select root view controller. That's now saying the navigation controller that will be shown by pushing this add button will contain a table view as the root view. Double click in the toolbar and type add task just to give it a little bit more meaning. Scroll down once again and this time add two bar button items. The one on the left, cancel, and the one on the right, done. Select the table view and change content to static cells. We're going to design this whole table view inside Interface Builder. Change style from plain to grouped and make sections 2. Delete one of the cells in the first section and select the first one. Change style to left detail. We're doing this just to get a predefined style from Xcode. Copy the title label and in the second cell, paste it. Line it up as best you can and then get rid of the first cell. We did that so that we didn't have to spend time formatting our label. Now we want to add a text field so the user can type in a title for their new task. Drag a text field onto the page, line it up and size it appropriately. I recommend you remove the border style on this text field and set placeholder text to tap to edit. Now we're going to copy this entire cell so we have another one. The second one is going to be our description. You should appreciate the description of a task could be quite a bit longer. I don't think a text field is ideal here. Let's use a text view. So, extend that cell so it's quite a bit taller. Scroll down and add a text view onto the view. Line up the text as best you can. Resize to fill this sort of area. Remove the initial text and leave everything else as is. Now select the table view section. Set the header to task details and the footer to please enter all required information. In the second section, set the header to task priority and footer to how important is this task. We have 3 cells in task priority, one for low, one for medium and one for high. Remove 2 for now, we'll design one and then copy the other. Change style to subtitle. Set the main label to low priority and subtitle to something along the lines of needs done at some point. Copy the cell twice. Set the second one to medium priority and a similarly friendly description. And finally, the third, high priority. Needs done urgently. Let's make this interface a little bit nicer by selecting low priority label and setting the text colour to green. I would darken the green a little bit. Then do the same for medium priority, this time going with our chosen colour of orange. And high priority, this time going with our chosen colour of red. We want the predefined set value to be low priority. Set the selection to grey and accessory to checkmark. Medium, selection to grey, and high, selection to grey. While we're at it, let's turn off selection on the top 2 cells because we don't want to be able to select the cell itself, instead the text field within. Change selection to none on both of these cells. That's our interface fully designed. Now we need to create a custom class to implement the logic for this view. Once again, go to File, New, New File, and select UI View Controller subclass. Give it a name, IC Add Task Table View Controller. Leave all values as they are, select Next, and then click Create. In Add Tasks Table View Controller.h, add a property, non-atomic, import your brain, and give the property a type IC Task Priority. This is where we will store the currently selected priority. Implement this by synthesizing. You can now remove, because we've statically implemented our table view, all table view data source methods. That's from the pragma mark that says table view data source right down to table view delegate. Go back to your storyboard and select the table view controller. Go to the third tab on the inspector and change the class to IC Add Task. Now we're going to join our text fields and buttons up to our code so that we can make use of them. Control drag from your title text field onto your code and create a new property, txt title. Set type to UI text field and storage to weak and choose connect. Now do the same again for description, txt description, UI text view and weak. Control drag from your done button into your code, this time choose action and type done tapped. Once again do the same for cancel and choose action cancel tapped. What this is doing is telling our storyboard when you click done to run the routine done tapped in the given class. Xcode's also auto-generating your header for the two methods and our outlets, as well as the implementation for all of these. In cancel tapped, it's as simple as asking our parent view controller to dismiss the modal view controller. Done tapped, we're going to need to implement creating a new task, adding it to the brain, and dismissing the parent view controller. So IC task new task equals IC task alloc init. New task dot task title equals self.txt title dot text. New task dot task description equals self.txt description dot text. New task dot task priority equals self.taskPriority. But where does this come from? We'll get back to that in a second. Then we would say tasks brain, get the main brain, and add a task, new task. Then self.parentViewController, dismiss modal view controller animated, yes. That's our done tapped implemented. Now all we need to do is get self.taskPriority to always have the correctly selected priority in there. We do that by overriding didSelectRow at index path. The index path section is always going to be 1 here because you can't select any other cells. The index path row is either going to be 0, 1 or 2. These numbers are significant because our priorities are also 0, 1 or 2 but with a type def. So we can set self.taskPriority equals index path dot row. That is now setting the correct value, but you'll notice we're not setting the checked mark on the cell that you've clicked. We can do that with this code. First, we get an instance of the cell. We say table view, cell for row at index path and pass our index path. Because this is the cell you've just tapped, we know we need to set the accessory type to UI table view cell accessory checkmark. We also need to set the accessory type of all the other priorities to none. How do we do that? Well, we do a simple loop. For I equals 0, 1 and 2, we create a temporary index path with the row I and section index path dot section, which should always be 1. We then get the cell that we're currently looping through, so we're going to loop through the low cell, the medium cell and the high cell. We do that in the same way, cell for row at index path temp IP. Then we say if the temporary cell is the cell that you've just clicked, then we don't want to do anything. Otherwise, with the exclamation mark, we're going to set temp cell accessory type to UI table view cell accessory none. Let's run through that bit a little bit again. We repeat through the numbers 0, 1 and 2, creating an index path for that row each time. We then get the cell corresponding to that temporary index path, and if the current cell we're looping through is the cell you've just selected, we do nothing. Otherwise, we set the accessory type to none. Now, if we run our application, we should see our new interface. So, if we go to Tasks, then click Add, here's our new interface. We can say Title, New Task, and Description, Description. You notice how we're able to select these cells. So we need to tell it not to listen. So let's set it to medium priority, and notice another bug. Our selection is not going away. Choose Done and it works, but we have a slight problem. Let's deal with these issues. In the did select row at index path, we need to tell the table view at the end to deselect the row at that index path. That's that. We also need to implement table view will select row at index path. If the index path section is 0, we return nil, telling it not to let you select it. Otherwise, we return the index path. While we're at it, go back to your tasks table view controller.m and remove the temporary add task that we made earlier. Choose Run. Go to Tasks, Add, now we can't select. Choose Type Buy Bread, for example, from the shop. Set it to medium. Done. Let's add another. Buy alcohol. High priority. And pick up the wife. Of course, that's not very important. There we have it. There's our interface. Let's take a look at the activity. You would expect that to be the other way around, so that the most recent activity is at the top. That's a change we need to make to our tasks brain. Go to ictasksbrain.m and in Add Activity Item, change the line of code to self.activity, insert object a item at index 0. One other feature we're going to implement is the ability to complete a task. In your tasks table view controller.m, uncomment the method table view commit editing style for row at index path. Also, above that, we need to implement a method table view title for delete confirmation at index path. And for that, we're going to return complete. In the delete method, we need to work out which array to remove it from. So, we're going to task to complete. For now is nil. If the index path.section equals 0, it's low priority. Else, if index path.section equals 1, it's medium. Else, if index path.section is 2, it's high. So if it's low, we say task to complete self.lowtasks object at index path.row. If it's medium, we say self.mediumtasks object at index path.row. and if it's high we say self.highTasks object.index indexPath.row. Then all we have to do down here is access our brain and tell it to complete the task to complete. We also need to remove that task from the cached array. We could say self.lowTasks remove object.index, but it seems easier to us if we just say self.lowTasks equals nil. That way when it's next accessed, it will get fresh information from the brain. We do the same for medium tasks and high tasks. That's it. Run your application and we now have a fully working application. Buy bread, buy alcohol, our activity has it in the right order. If we complete buy bread, our activity now says completed task buy bread. That's it for this tutorial. In the final part we're going to look at persisting the data. If we quit the application and rerun it, you'll notice that information's gone. We'll fix that in the next tutorial. Check out that part and all other parts as well as all our other tutorials at www.iOSconsultancy.co.uk.